The Secrets of Star Wars is brought to you by the StarQuest Production Network and is made possible by our many generous patrons. If you'd like to support the podcast, please visit sqpn.com/give.
You're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, episode 38.
Hello there.
It's a power that Jedi have that lets them control people and make things float.
Impressive. Every word in that sentence was wrong.
Help me, Obi-Wan Kenobi. You're my only hope.
This station is now the ultimate power in the universe.
I find your lack of faith disturbing.
It's against my programming to impersonate a deity.
That's not how the Force works.
Force is with me, and I am with the Force, and I fear nothing.
Remember, the Force will be with you, always.
Hey everyone, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter, aka Father Fett, and you're listening to The Secrets of Star Wars, where we talk about everything connected to that galaxy far, far away, including all the deeper themes and meanings that we can find in the show and the TV and all the various media. Today we're going to be discussing the brand new season of the Clone Wars by looking at season 7, episodes 1 and 2, The Bad Batch and A Distant Echo. Joining me tonight on the panel are Mike Creevy. Hey, Mike.
Hey, Father. How's it going? Good to be back.
It's good to have you. Second up this evening, we've got Thomas Sanjurjo. Hey, Thomas.
Hey, Father.
Third, Angela Cialana.
What's
Welcome
up?
back.
Thank you.
And finally this evening, Andrew Hermes. Hey, Andrew.
Hey, Father. I really enjoyed your coverage of Chicago Comic-Con on Instagram.
Thanks. Not too many Star Wars actors, but there was a K2SO on stilts, which was a cosplayer, which is really, really
nice.
Fun. It was impressive, yeah.
Yeah, so, that was cool. So, tonight we're talking everything with the new season of the Clone Wars. Some have already kind of seen this before. Angela, I'm assuming you probably have, because these episodes were released kind of as they were 5 years ago.
Yeah, 5 years ago. Yeah. So, but they were just, I don't remember what the technical term is, but they storyboarded everything out, and then they did like the voice recording, and they did the rough animation. So, yeah, essentially, I had already seen these episodes. So.
Huh. Well, to kind of jump off of that, then what was your, and of course it goes out to all you guys too, what was your impressions of the finished product, which I know is slightly different from the stories that you would have seen a number of years ago?
Oh, I was practically drooling. I was so excited. The camera work was just jaw-dropping. I loved the camera work, the sweeping shots. There's a shot where they're going into the what's it called, the cyber center, where they're actually infiltrating the cyber center, and it's like a first person video game. It was so great. So many long shots. Honestly, that was my favorite thing. I was geeking out over the tech and how everything looked.
That's my kids were jumping up and down the whole time, like, why is this not a video game? This needs to be a video game.
What about the rest of you, Mike or Andrew? What were your...
Oh, I was just thinking it's and I'm excited to, of course, talk about them a lot more, but I love the Bad Batch. And it's like every like cheesy 80s and 90s like military squad stereotype but done perfect. I mean, like, it's all there, and I can't stop. There's so many things I'll point out, and I'm sure you guys will too, but that was definitely my favorite part, is just those characters.
Yeah, I'll second that. Yeah, the introduction to the Bad Batch, was like probably my favorite part of that episode, and just seeing the dynamic, between that squad and how things play out. It was it was definitely the highlight.
I sort of equated it to DC's The Suicide Squad.
Yeah.
I haven't seen the movie, but I've seen the Suicide Squad within the Arrowverse and in other mediums, and there was some very clear stereotypes, tropes, whatever you want to call it, of the various characters. I had to go back and watch some of the other episodes to understand some of this, though, since I'm still kind of getting into it. Things like Echo, I realized very quickly that he was more than just, a random character.
Mm-hmm.
So I had to go back and kind of look into that. But we'll jump into then the review and kind of see where that takes us. So this episode starts off with the Battle of Anaxis, and it's taking place on the planet Anaxis. It's one of the Republic's largest shipyards, and the battle is not going well at all for the Republic. And Master Windu and Anakin are discussing the current situation and why they seem to be losing so much. Captain Rex has kind of a theory on what's going on, and he points out that the droid army is using these algorithms to learn and how to predict how the clones will attack. And the more that the clones use a certain tactic, the more effective the droid army is at countering them. And the issue with Anaxis is that the counterattacks are so incredibly precise, and so Rex believes that the droids have his personal playbook, so to speak, in countering them. And so Commander Cody and Rex want to take a small group of clones behind enemy lines and disable this cyber center, which is where all the attacks are being relayed from. And Anakin notes that Rex seems to be hiding something about his suspicions about all of this. And we very quickly realize that actually what he's hiding is he goes off into the barracks, and he's reflecting on the friends of the past who have died, the troopers, including Fives and Echo. And it's that point when he and Commander Cody are talking that Rex believes that Echo is alive. And he thinks that because the droids are using battle plans that Rex and Echo both drew up together in the past. And that was something that he didn't quite want to say in front of Master Windu or Anakin Skywalker, because he thought that they might think he was being crazy. So Commander Cody and Rex kind of have a moment there, reflecting on some of the past. And Commander Cody then tells Rex who this experimental Clone Force 99, who is the squad that they're going to be using to try to infiltrate the Cyber Center. And Clone Force 99, that was a callback, something that I had to look it up, but it was in remembrance of a malformed maintenance clone who died while aiding the defense of Kamino from the Separatist invasion. And this was back in Season 3, Episode 2, the ARC Trooper episode.
CT-99 is probably one of my favorite characters in Clone Wars, actually. He just was a clone that had a real heart of gold. He was a true soldier. And even though he physically couldn't serve the cause, he was like everyone's greatest cheerleader. So he actually encouraged the Domino Squad. The Domino Squad was like the squad of troopers that Echo was on with Fives originally before they joined the 501st. So that was kind of also a connection to Echo and Fives too. So 99 kind of encouraged them when they were going through their training to succeed, that they could actually succeed because they kept failing their training. So
cool. So yeah, so there's some deep connections there, which is kind of the impetus for even the arc, as it seems, is Rex's connection with Echo and the friendship that they had, and the camaraderie and all of that is what's driving Rex to where he's going in these next episodes.
Yeah, and I think we're starting to see more of the clones as very much human figures. I know that the Jedi have been trying to do that with them the whole series, but then I thought this one was really like you got to see Rex hanging out outside of the room while Anakin was making the call, and you got this sense of him being bored, and that's not something you really feel from them before this point. Like they're always at the ready, and this is like him, like, oh, I really have to do this again, kind of attitude. And it was really it feels like a change from the way that they've been portraying the clones before this point.
Well, I think, and that's like when they're in the barracks, it was like we know they're clones. It's the show's called Clone Wars, but I thought if you were just dropped into it and didn't know anything about it, you could see them. Obviously they look alike, but it just felt more like, they're more like brothers than clones, if that makes sense.
Right.
And that human dimension where it might just, you don't come into it just assuming anymore that they're just carbon copies of each other, even though they have, they have the same voice, obviously. Which, by the way, kudos to, I had to write his name down because I forgot, but D. Bradley Baker with the voicing of the clones. And I thought they must save a fortune in voice acting, because like at the end, like the credits, it's like, it was like 5 or 6 people. Yeah. I was like, no, it's got to be more. No, that's right. Yeah, that makes sense.
Yeah. Well, even the fact that Rex had that picture of him and his buddies is another just kind of visual cue that of a humanizing of the clones, which was super helpful, and it makes you relate to them in an easier way. So we then get introduced to experimental Clone Force 99. They call themselves the Bad Batch, and they were defective clones basically, but they had desirable mutations, which was kind of a fun way to put that. Kind of planned there. A little.
Well, what do the undesirable mutations look like? Like what do they do with those clones?
Well, like CT-99 was like deformed, and he got old really fast. So
yeah. So we get introduced to Hunter, Wrecker, Tech, and Crosshair. And I just have to ask you guys, which one is your favorite?
I like Hunter. Hunter is my favorite out of the loop, but my kids were all over the place. They each latched onto a different one and loved him.
I think Wrecker, because he's the most like the 80s stereotype movie guy. I mean, like he's got Predator all over him. Like you're expecting him to start yelling "get some" like while he's shooting or something. and my favorite shot of him, like we'll get to that later, but I just love when he's on the ship with like the turkey leg and like arm pressing the gonk droid. I'm like, you gotta be kidding me. I was like, I never would have dreamed to ask for something like that, and there it is. It's just so over the top.
The gonk droid.
Oh, I was just gonna say that was my favorite scene too, so he's my favorite as well.
I like Hunter because he kind of keeps them in check, and he he's the leader of the group, and I like how he has like heightened senses and stuff. He would be my favorite, I think.
Okay, well then I'm going to, and I didn't plan this, but Tech is my favorite. But I can't also just say that without including Crosshair, because they are like a little unit, just the two of them. So so I'm for Tech. I also wanted to point out, you mentioned Wrecker. When I first saw Wrecker, I did not really care for him at all. He kind of came across as just a brute.
Right.
But the second episode of this arc really gave him some humorous lines that really it warmed my heart to him. I really appreciated that. But we've got these four clones who have all unique skills, and I do want to point out that was very of course it's part of the plot and everything, but it was also, it echoes back to the fortune cookie statement at the beginning of the episode, which was embrace others for their differences, for that makes you whole. And that very intentionally is the theme playing out throughout all of this, is you've got all the regs, the normal clones, and then you've got these four mutated clones. And rather than them being different and harmful to one another, it's when they all can work together that they are able to successfully complete the mission and draw on each other's strengths. So that was very clearly played out through this, even though as the characters themselves had to kind of work through some of that.
Right? Yeah, and it also kind of hints at, the regular clones are failing, whereas these mutated clones, who are all different from each other very clearly, have a 100% success rate, as is said at the beginning. So, yeah.
So they are the ones who are going to help them infiltrate, and basically they're trying to retrieve the algorithm that they think is being used against them to counter the clone troopers and their battle tactics. they have the go ahead to go and go behind enemy lines, and in the ship as they're heading that way, they are shot down by a group of battle droids. And this was a pretty cool place too, because this is where you finally we sort of heard what their skills were, but we finally get to see the Bad Batch. They begin to show off their skills. Cody gets trapped.
He's not going to pull Cody out. He's going to pull the ship out. It's like, yes, all right, let's go.
Yep. And then even after that, the battle droids begin to approach, and immediately you also see that Rex wants to just kind of fall back and let the droids approach them and then take them out. And the Bad Batch is like, no, let's go confront them right away and take them out. And that's where you see Tech, plotting random trajectories for Crosshair to use as he takes out droids, and Wrecker's using his strength, and all of this is, again, very intentionally contrary to what the normal clone troopers would have done in that situation. And I also really appreciated, I wrote here in my notes that those four also felt very much like a family.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
Because after they wipe out the entire company of droids, Wrecker has this head of a droid, and he's like teasing Crosshair, and he's like, Crosshair, this little clanker likes you. And Crosshair's just like, grow up, Wrecker, and turns away. And I again, it gives that human dimension, but it totally just felt like, like me and my brother goofing off as kids or something. And I'm like, Greg, just go away.
Well, and you see that without giving anything away, but you see that later on too, a little bit with when Wrecker's a little apprehensive and Hunter's like, oh, don't worry, I'll hold your hand. Right. He's just like elbows him, it's fun.
Yeah. Well, and I think it's interesting here. You see how much the clone troopers don't work together by watching these guys work together. You see that, like, when the clone troopers go into battle, they're all just kind of like doing their own thing to try and win. And they're a unit, but at the same time, they're like all firing at their own targets. These guys are like calling shots for each other. They're backing each other up in a way that you don't really see the clones do very often.
And the clones those other clones are a lot like the droids kind of in that regard.
Right.
Yeah.
It's just they happen to be a little bit better than the droids.
Right.
Yeah, and that's exactly why why Cody wanted to bring in the Bad Batch to help out in this kind of situation. So they take out all the droids, and they leave on foot, and the droids contact Admiral Trench and inform him how irregular this battle was than what they expected. And Trench orders the droids to continue to locate the clones and hunt them down. And we flash to the clones all sitting around the camp. That's where we see that Cody has some internal wounds that he can't quite be the leader. And that's also where we're really told of Hunter's abilities, and that he has heightened senses, and he can sense electromagnetic frequencies from anywhere on the entire planet. So he's like a living, non-faulty GPS system, apparently. So that's pretty cool.
And that's super impressive.
Yeah. And his name fits totally. Yeah, Cody's too injured to continue to lead the assault, so Rex had called for evac and takes over command. And there's a brief argument at that point about the leadership, and Hunter has to kind of step in and break it up, and points out that they're all fighting for the same reason, and they decide to keep going forward. And they move out on foot, and they come to the base of an outpost that is near the cyber center. And in order to then infiltrate the outpost, Rex follows the Bad Batch's lead and decides to go with a full frontal assault, and they attack the outpost. They get in and climb the tower and destroy all the droids, and it's from up in the top of that they are able to then locate where the cyber center is.
Right, and I have to say, at this point, like, watching that scene, you talk about it being like a video game. There actually was a video game called Republic Commando.
Yeah.
And if you want to play this almost exact kind of scenario, go find that game because it's dead on for this kind of thing. Like it felt like playing that game, just watching the scene. I was like, yes, this is just like Republic Commando. It's so great.
I think I have played that. I just don't think
such a great game.
It's been a while though.
Yeah, it's an older game. It's I think it was an Xbox.
I
like
think
one of the first
yes.
Xbox games.
Yes.
So
they find the cyber center. They also Tech overhears or intercepts a transmission saying that there are more droids on their way, and they go on to attack the cyber center itself. And they split off into a few different groups in order to attack. And after they've left the outpost, the droids arrive. And they notice that the clones have already left, and Admiral Trench realizes that the target is the cyber center and tries to warn the droids that an attack is coming at the very moment that the clones do indeed attack. I love how just naive the battle droids are.
Yes.
Yes.
Do you know what's going on?
Where'd you come from?
Yeah.
I love that. Was the episode 4 riff there. Like maybe it's another drill, like blast.
Well, and there was an interesting scene there where one of them they like knock the head off of one of the droids, and he reaches up and like tries to touch his neck, where the head was. And we had a really interesting discussion with my kids because they kind of know that the droids are controlled from somewhere else. And they're like, oh, that's really, like, I guess they would kind of be able to do that, right? Because if they're controlled from somewhere else, there isn't really any stopping them with just like taking off a single body part. I was like, yeah, that kind of makes them terrifying in a different sort of way than you're fighting a truly brainless foe that maybe it just keeps shooting if it actually had the sense to do that, right?
Guess so.
And yet there is some individuality with the droids too. They have kind of a dual sort of thing there. So they immediately launched that attack. This was another place where Wrecker finally was starting to score some points with me. Is Tech tries to use his tech to open the door, and Wrecker just comes in and knocks the door down, kicks it down.
You take too long.
yeah. And so they launch their attack, and they get in and they secure the command center. And Rex is then able to join up with them, and Tech's trying to find the algorithm, and very quickly deduces that it isn't local to the center at all, but it's actually a live signal coming from the planet Skako Minor. And it's at this point that we very quickly begin to realize that it's an audio signal, and it sounds like a human voice. And they ask for identification of the person, and the voice responds with CT-1409, which is Echo's call number. And Rex is he affirms his belief, or he thinks that he's affirmed his belief that Echo is truly indeed alive, and is shocked by that revelation. And is still all the clones then are able to escape the structure and escape aboard this craft that Crosshair had secured for them. And Trench is visibly alarmed when he realizes that the clones have figured out that this transmission is coming from Skako Minor. And the episode ends with Rex brooding over the fact that he discovered that Echo is still alive. Yeah, it's a good thing that we have another episode to talk about. That one was good, but yeah.
Yeah. Well, I thought I liked this one. I liked the action of this one, but I also felt like it was a little choppy. The storytelling was quick, and I know they've all the Clone Wars have been very quick, but this one for some reason just felt like it was sort of the pacing was off on it, and maybe it's just they're out of practice from having had a few years between the last and this, but I don't know. It was just kind of felt like there was the tempo was wrong, in my opinion.
And it really, one thing I do like, and this is just, kind of standard now with these, I like that this sort of serial format is so authentic to Star Wars Origins, and that kind of Buck Rogers kind of, space romp type, type thing. So, and, like we said with The Mandalorian over and over again, too, like that it is back to this, weekly sort of like what's going to happen next. And, in that regard, it's like I kind of go into it not really expecting anything to get wrapped up, Right. So there's like that built-in cliffhanger, I guess. But I do find that enjoyable as well,
It's a different whole mentality for me because I'm used to. I definitely I've seen Rebels, and so I totally I'm familiar, of course, with these animated stories. But I'm also so used to novels where I'm sometimes the animated 20 minutes like, oh, we're going to go find Echo. And then bam, we're going to find Echo in the next episode. And in a novel, like I'm expecting like chapters of exposition of, where they've got to find the right transport and they've got to get there. And so I've even just got to kind of mentally get out of it's a different mode of storytelling. And I think
you don't get the clock wipe in the novel.
right. I think it was either the Clone Wars download, the Star Wars YouTube video where they interview some of the cast and the directors. I want to say it was in there that they were talking about the fact that this episode at least was definitely more action based. And then the second episode is more character driven.
Right.
So I think that's definitely a fair kind of assessment that this one is sort of, it's showing off the abilities of the Bad Batch and all the action involved with that. And they of course are in the next episode too, but it's the next episode definitely focuses a bit more on Rex and his connection with Echo.
A quick trivia question for you guys here, because I swear I caught it more when I watched it again. In both episodes, actually, I swear they're using like that kind of like Resistance theme song from the sequel trilogy movies, a couple times.
There was,
and I kept going back to like Force Awakens. Like I kept trying to jump to where it plays in some of those sequel movies, and it's at least extremely similar, if not the same little tune they're riffing on. I don't know.
I think I was trying to come up with the same thing because there's a certain theme when the Bad Batch is introduced.
Right.
That I very much felt familiar, and I didn't quite know where to place it, but it very well could be the Resistance theme,
because it seems random because it doesn't have anything to do with that in the storyline. But I don't know. But it's I'm gonna go back and listen again because it really does. It sounds like it.
Mm-hmm. There's another musical cue that I'm going to bring up here in just a bit, which the music plays a part of all of this storytelling, but I'm going to kind of save that because it was a really cool moment when I heard it. So, anything else before on that first episode before we jump into the next one?
No, but as we jump into the next one, I'm starting to wonder how many crash landings versus smooth landings are in Star Wars.
Right. Seems like that's all ships do.
Everything is a crash landing. I'm not even surprised anymore.
Speaking of that's kind of, well, I guess it doesn't start off with the crash landing, but episode 2 starts off with Anakin and Rex just Rex more gung-ho to get going on the mission to go after Echo, to go to Skako Minor. And Anakin is sure that the Jedi Council is going to approve the mission, and Hunter is there talking with them, and Hunter assumes it's a trap, but he's going to take the Bad Batch with him anyway, and Rex just wants to get going. And then we have a very fun and awkward conversation where Anakin wants to do that thing and needs Rex help, right? Air quotation marks.
He could have said that better.
Yeah. Yeah. It was really funny though, because Rex finally agrees to do this, and stands outside the barracks and gives Anakin his helmet while Anakin goes in to the barracks to have his Skype call with Padme. But I watched it and all I could think about was my brother's going to hate that I tell this story, but we were, I don't even remember how old we were, but my older brother he got grounded from video games, and he really wanted to play them. And so I had to be the lookout for when mom and dad might be coming down the stairs, and I had to be the one to, tell him to put the game away. And
classic player 2.
Yeah, I was the younger brother, and I will say that I was a really good lookout, and he never got caught. And the one time that he had to do it for me, he got too involved in watching me play, and I didn't get caught. So,
oh my.
Yeah. Anyways, Rex is the guard. He's standing outside and making sure that nobody bothers Anakin while he's talking to Padme. This was a cool moment. This was not in the storyboards from 5 years ago or whenever that came out. I was watching the Clone Wars download, and Dave Filoni Padme wasn't involved in any of these 12 episodes, and so this was he wrote this scene for her to include her in these episodes, and to show the connection that Anakin does truly value Padme and her support, and was able to bring her into these 12 episodes. So this scene was new to the finalized episode, which was really cool to see.
It's kind of shocking because we're so used to their relationship being very surface level, and
yeah.
So
it was a very tender moment, and that was really it did more, I think, for the relationship between Anakin and Padme than just about any other representation of those two characters that I've seen.
Absolutely. Yeah, it was a special scene, and yeah, knowing that Padme is his voice of reason, and still at this point, obviously, with Anakin starting to show the flashes of the dark side, I think it just makes his downfall that much more tragic, knowing that like the role that she used to play in his life.
Well, I love how we get to see, I don't know if this is I'm assuming this was planned because it's animated, so everything's basically planned. So but you can clearly see in the profile, she's showing, but he probably doesn't see that from his angle, because we saw in the trailer a little clip of that, and people were speculating, but you can see she's kind of standing too in a way that's this kind of motherly posture, which was just really, I thought, a nice touch, where it's he doesn't know yet, and we know that because of episode 3, but we got to be pretty close to that. It was just a neat little detail.
Well, and she hasn't told him yet. You can tell that she hasn't told him yet, because he's off somewhere else. There's nothing he can do about it. I don't want to worry him. I don't want him to come home for it. So there's just so much built into that scene, and it really just carries so much weight. And it's kind of this toss away, in the midst of everything else that's going on. But it was really good and really important.
And Obi-Wan has to come in and not ruin it, but
I love that his introduction after all this time back into the storyline is just wandering across the parade field, kind of looking, or the the airstrip, and just kind of hey.
Well, and Rex rolling his eyes oh gosh, I have to talk to this guy about it.
But also to what he had to come up with the lie of what Anakin was doing to hide the fact that and
he's not as good as you were, Father.
See,
he needed some advice.
Yeah. Well,
and they're not hiding anything from anybody important, right? Obi-Wan already knew. When he turns around and says, "Hi, at least I hope you said hi to Padme for me." He knows. It's not he's blind to this whole thing.
That shocked me a little bit, because I know, obviously he directly asks, near the end of episode 3, and you kind of get the impression he knows something's going on. But I don't remember, it's been a little while since I saw the Clone Wars. I don't remember that so directly coming up before. Maybe you guys do. I don't know.
No, I mean,
he just totally called him out.
Yeah, this is when the cat's out of the bag, I think, for the Clone Wars, as far as him knowing. And well, I don't think it's completely out of the bag. I don't think he knows that she's pregnant, or well, Anakin probably doesn't even know, like we just mentioned. But yeah, this was it was a little shocking. Yeah, it was so casual with the delivery. Hey, just say hi to Padme, but yeah, it's out there now.
I feel like we know with him too because of the whole Duchess Satine thing,
right.
Like that introduced. There's that whole level to him where he's personally maybe a little more aware of those sorts of things, So yeah, it was neat.
Oh, and it was at that point that Across the Stars, the love theme from episode 2 played for about just a couple seconds. And so I thought that was, again, just a well done moment. But it also showed, someone pointed out that this also reveals that Rex also knows about the relationship. Apparently that's been fairly ambiguous for all of the Clone Wars. So Rex knows, and Padme gives Anakin the advice to trust Rex and his instincts, just like Rex trusts Anakin's. And so they head off on the mission to Skako Minor, and this is on the ship. This is where Wrecker is now, lifting a Gonk and eating what looks like a large turkey leg.
I think if he hadn't been doing both of them, something just would have been missing. It's just they're so ridiculous to have both.
But it's so him. It's you could just like Crosshair's probably just rolling his eyes, and So they approach Skako Minor and fly through a storm, of course, land the ship, and
safe landing,
right. And they're commenting on the locals, and that there's these Poltecs and that they're primitive, and Tech says that they worship these flying reptiles, and then immediately they're attacked by one of these flying reptiles with a Poltec riding on it.
Which I have to say, this was fun watching with my 2-year-old who has just discovered his love for dragons. And so he's, oh, dragon, oh. And so the rest of the episode, that's, oh, dragon. Yes, that looks a lot like a dragon. Yep.
Kiridax. Right? They're called Kiridax. Yeah.
Kiridax? Right. So it reminded me of what the sun turned into on Mortis. Do y'all remember that?
Oh, yeah. Uh-huh.
Is it kind of like a bat lizard type of thing? So when I saw the little face of it, I thought like, oh, that looks like Mortis. I don't know.
It's not quite the same as the thing in what episode was it? 6 or 7 of I think it was 7 of Mandalorian. The thing that gets Carl Weathers, or bites him.
No, so it's those had like a long
different.
Face.
Yeah, but it's like this whole dragon-esque thing is like that just comes out of nowhere. It's wherever you are, just watch out.
There was I forget where I saw it, but I thought I saw that reptile was in Star Wars Rebels at some point.
Oh yeah. I think that was on the episode guide. I want to say either the episode guide or Wikipedia, because I checked both of those before we did this.
Yeah, I'd read it somewhere. So there's a bigger connection outside of just this episode. So and again, like there's I love the humor that's interspersed with this episode. And I can't remember, somebody says, don't just go outside, and immediately everybody runs outside.
I think it was Rex. That said, don't just go outside, and then everybody's like out the ship. It's like, okay.
I mean, and that's like so human nature. Like I've been in a couple situations where tornado alarm goes off and everybody runs outside to go see if they can spot it. Right. like it's not exactly the smartest thing to do, but it's like there's that human curiosity that prompts it.
Do you guys remember The Office where like Dwight's worried that Michael's going to be killed by an icicle because he's always like looking directly up at it. Yes. And he's like, no, just come over here and look at it. He just needs to look. Yeah, that's like, don't do this. It's dangerous.
Yeah. So they go outside, and of course, danger is imminent, and they are attacked, and Anakin is captured.
And he freaks out. And I'm like screaming at the TV, like, dude, use the Force, like, calm down.
Yeah. Because he drops his lightsaber and is
rookie. What is this rookie Anakin going on right now? We're at the end of the Clone Wars, man.
Is it because he just talked to Padme?
That's what it is. Yep. That's what it is.
So he is captured, and Tech and Crosshair manage to get a trajectory, and Crosshair uses a grappling hook to hook onto the reptile, and gets drug along with them as they get flown off to the local village. And Crosshair lands just outside the village, and the reptile and the Poltech and Anakin all get taken into to the village itself. And Crosshair calls all the other clones to him, using to hone in on his signal. And when they all get together, they are very clear that they are to not cause any casualties. They are to disarm only, and so they decided to start a landslide to cause a distraction to get to Anakin.
Right, and so this is the reason for that is because this is the Techno Union's planet, and so I think it's important to remember that they're on what is technically neutral territory. So this is like a really big gamble to go and do this thing. But at the same time, they're also there because the code or the algorithm that's coming from there is the thing that's defeating them. So it's very obviously against their whole group.
Right. The Techno Union has actually sort of broken that neutrality, but they're not really admitting it. So they cause this landslide and free Anakin. And then they're able to use tech to translate and talk to the Poltechs, who, of course, don't want the war coming to their planet. And Anakin tells them that Wat Tambor and the Separatists have already brought the war there. And they apologize. Anakin and the clone troopers apologize and say that the Separatists are holding a prisoner there, and that once they rescue him, they will leave the planet forever. And the chief agrees to lead them to the capital city, and after that they're on their own. And then we swap to Wat Tambor, who receives a transmission from Admiral Trench warning him that these clones are coming, they're likely coming, and that the operation is in jeopardy. And even though the Techno Union, Wat Tambor doesn't believe the Republic will attack them because of their corporate neutrality, Trench tells him that he's pretty sure this batch of clones is still going to be coming, and so Wat Tambor vows to be ready for that. The clone troopers and Anakin all reach the edge of the city, and again, this is where Wrecker was just scoring points with me right and left, because he makes the assertion that he's not scared of anything. And then, because they're talking about going up high distances, and he says, when I'm up real high, I got a problem with gravity.
A problem with gravity.
Like, okay, I like you.
It's definitely accurate.
So they continue to have some issues with losing Echo signal, and Tech just thinks that it's probably atmospheric disturbances, and Hunter thinks it's a trap. And we have some friction between Crosshair and Rex, because Crosshair thinks that Rex is just letting his personal feelings get in the way, since he left Echo for dead at the Citadel. Just calls Echo another reg, and that he would have left him behind too if that was the situation. And this sort of references what happened back in season 3. There was an arc where Echo died, and I haven't seen all of that, but I know that's kind of what's being referenced here is that story arc back in season 3,
which is interestingly the same kind of story arc where they had to break into a prison to free someone, and so it's interesting because it kind of ties those two stories together in an even deeper way.
It's interesting.
Now he's the one who needs saving. Yep.
This causes a bit of a fight between Rex and Crosshair, and Anakin steps in and stops the fight and tells the Bad Batch to go scout. And then he and Rex have a conversation that Anakin tells Rex that he has to be prepared for the possibility that Echo is truly dead, and if Echo is dead, Rex promises that he will deal with it. They then manage to arrive at the base of a tower after following Echo's signal to it, and they have to go up this lift, and Wrecker again is just a bit terrified of that. Mm-hmm. And that's where Hunter steps in and says, "Don't worry, Wrecker, I'll hold your hand," which was again appreciative moment for me. They take the lift all the way up, and while on the lift, Anakin is doing his best to remind them that they're on this stealth mission, and so they have to avoid blowing up things, and they have to be, unseen. And immediately when the lift doors open, Wrecker yells and runs and engages all the droids.
They really didn't have any other options.
So much for stealth.
Like,
I love how those droids fall off the platform yelling, "Why?"
Very introspective. And then he's standing there, Wrecker's there, just like starting and ending it because he's just really like revved up. Like, what?
I think at some point he mentions he's like, I'm just so excited or something along those lines.
A little carried away,
yeah, he just can't contain it. So they do destroy all the droids in the area, and they again lose Echo's signal, and so that's when Tech theorizes that the signal is only visible during data transmissions, and that they have to wait for Echo to transmit more data. And so in the meantime, Anakin orders the clones to split up while they search the facility, and so he heads off one way, and the clones are all heading off in other ways to try to find Echo. And Tech traces the signal to a particular chamber where the entrance is sealed, but there's a view screen next to it, and it does activate. And Wat Tambor informs Rex that he was aware that they were coming, and he's been using this algorithm to lay a trap for them. And this algorithm has been predicting every movement they've made to infiltrate Skako Minor. And then he claims that Echo is dead, but he said something really interesting. He said, "Your friend is dead. His mind is ours," which is exactly kind of what was going on. Rex calls him a liar, and then they are Wat Tambor orders droids to execute all the clones, and they of course fight the droids. And Anakin gets to use some pretty awesome lightsaber moves in this scene, which was really cool to see.
Yes. Mm-hmm. And who was it that was taking out the droids with the dagger? Was that
was
Hunter?
No, Hunter.
It was Hunter.
Oh, it was Hunter, yeah.
Yeah, Hunter,
I thought that was the
was a
coolest
dagger
thing.
fighter.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
I don't know if we've ever seen that in Star Wars. It was kind of like, it wasn't a metal dagger. It was like some kind
sort of an energy blade, sort of.
Yeah.
It was the same one that they showed at the beginning of the first episode when he said that he had to use that to whatever the queen,
right? Cut the queen's stinger off.
The stinger, yeah.
Well, and those are. I mean, the closest that I can assume those are is like a vibro dagger, which is like a dagger that has micro vibrations to it, and which is a hard thing to represent, in any kind of media. It would just work in real life, but if we want to actually show it off, we're gonna like put some little electrical field around it or something like that.
They had that briefly in the Mandalorian when they start fighting in the armory at that one point. If you look real close, like they were
right. The blades are blurred cool. And they're vibrating. Yeah, I thought that was a really good way to do it.
Yeah.
So they destroy all the droids, and Tech manages to open the door. And Rex and Tech head into this large, creepy lab where they find Echo in this stasis chamber. And Echo has been drugged and is completely unaware of his surroundings. There are these kind of tubes kind of being fitted into him. And, it's very clear that his eye movements were very unsettling. They've sort of hooked up to his brain and is using his own knowledge in his brain to calculate what the clones are going to be doing with their tactics.
Can I throw one thing in just about the room and the setup real quick that struck me? Because to me, it's like, what's really cool to me is it's not like it doesn't look like 60s, 70s or later sci-fi. It's like 1930s sci-fi. Like it's I don't know. There's just something really kind of old school about it. And I was actually really reminded of I don't know if you guys ever read the Lewis's Space Trilogy, but the third one especially. I just lost the name of it. That Hideous Strength. And there's such a big kind of central focal point in that on all this nefarious stuff going on at the NICE, and they even have that detached head that they've hooked up to all sorts of stuff. And just in my mind, when I've read that book, I've read it several times, and I always imagine it very similar to like what that room looked like in this episode. So that just really struck me as kind of a cool aesthetic for that.
Yeah, it's very much more H.P. Lovecraft than it is like like anything from the pulp sci-fi age.
Yeah, in the Clone Wars download, they were talking about how that they wanted that room to have kind of a horror monster aesthetic, and that I mean, it was the eye movements was what really got me. I mean, it was just
so creepy. Well, and again, that's like one of those like you're standing down there, it's like he's dropping out onto you kind of moment, and really puts you in there. That was like a little freaky.
Yeah,
and yet it's your best friend. It's your so you feel for Rex and as he pulls Echo down and just how limp Echo is and he's been used for his mind, but he hasn't used his body in however long he was in captivity. And that's essentially where the episode ends. They free Echo, and Echo sort of is somewhat coherent, and where this will go, Angela knows, but that's right. I don't.
What did you guys think of the fortune cookie for this episode? The search for truth begins with belief.
Yeah, I think that's Rex's whole deal. I mean, he believed that his friend was still out there, and it didn't matter to him. I mean, you could even criticize him for putting everyone in danger to go on this mission, and but his belief that Echo might still be out there kind of trumped everything. It trumped getting permission to go on this mission. He just did whatever he could to do that, because that's that's what he had faith in.
But then you have the different layers of that too, where Anakin has to believe in Rex, and that's layered with some interesting problems, because we know where that's going to end up for all the Jedi and the clones. And then you've got these the Bad Batch, who their belief in each other is the thing that keeps them alive. It's the truth that they've found in being a family of outcasts. So it's a really, like, that was a really good fortune cookie. It really kind of set the tone for the whole.
I was thinking episode too, like, with my, anytime I talk to students in sort of a theology class setting where some of the, the narrative of like faith versus reason comes in, and, I always try to lead the discussion or see if I can get us to this point of like trying to help them see, like, I firmly believe like everything you do, like any pursuit of truth starts with some kind of faith, like some kind of trust, some kind of, because, otherwise you're not going to go and pursue anything. Like there has to be something kind of drawing you out of where you are over to this possibility that like this, there's something out here that I don't have. There's something over there I want to learn about. Like that's all faith. So as soon as right off the bat, when I saw that, I was like, yeah, that's true. Well said.
It's not worth asking questions about if you don't have that belief, right. Like if you don't have that understanding that something important is there, then you're just going to ignore it and move on with life. But if you feel like there's something important, you really want to test it. And that's the other side of the coin there too, is like, if you're questioning your faith, that's good. That's a good thing, because it causes you to grow.
I actually wrote down in my notes, St. Anselm's sort of whole, if you had a mantra of his, I guess would be, he's the one who said faith, the catchphrase, I guess, faith seeking understanding. And that whole idea that, we're called to ask questions, to seek, understanding. And that's what's wonderful about the Catholic faith, is that it's not just, here, take this doctrine and don't ask questions. It's
right.
No, we believe in God, but we're always constantly seeking understanding and a deeper knowledge. And of course, and that is echoed. The search for truth begins with belief. But that belief, there's something tangible there, and for Rex, it was, he Echo, said his call name back to him. So he had that kernel of reality that he could hold on to. And then that led him to search for the truth. It wasn't just, he had this crazy notion that, Echo was alive and had no reason to believe it, but that's what led him to search for the truth. And the same thing is true with our Catholic faith, is that we have these kernels of truth, or an encounter with God, and that leads us to seek the deeper truths behind what we believe, why we believe. It's not just a fool's errand, I guess. So,
but sometimes it does feel like, hearing the tornado sirens and stepping outside to try and find the tornado.
Yeah, I'm guilty of that. Any other random thoughts from these first two episodes?
My kind of wrap up thought, I use the the Cornell notes thing. I actually kind of like it, with the just capturing different thoughts and along the margin and stuff. And then I've got this like notebook where I kind of have this comment section at the bottom, so it seems to kind of filter down into like, what's my big takeaway. And for this, it was really, what struck me was a lot of what we talked about earlier, like the clone humanity, and that got me thinking of dignity. And then I got into etymology, and the long story short was this idea of just how much is something worth. And apparently, evidently, I got to research this more, but the Latin root, I guess, with dignity has deep within it this sense of taking or receiving, and there's like this gift almost kind of language with it too, which is cool to me, because it's like, what do you like if someone gives you something and you just kind of pitch it because it doesn't mean anything to you, versus like you take it, you receive it, you cherish this, and then of course you project that out onto our relationships. That these guys are all like cloned from some dude who we know, had a history and all this kind of stuff, but every single one of them is completely unique. Even though they all have the same DNA, but they all have these different stories, they have these different relationships, and they're willing to go die for each other, even though they're clones. And I just think that's such a unique, like, you see that theme in every war movie ever and all that kind of stuff, but to me it's just kind of cool that it's because they're clones who are specific. They exist because they're not respected by the people who made them.
Right.
They're a product. They're a weapon, basically, like to the people who are responsible for their existence. But right here, there's like this bigger will in play. Like they're somehow part of the Force too. Like it's just, there's so much packed in there. It's just awesome.
Yeah, I think I had the same takeaway. I mean, it also humanizes war, and with the clones, like you were saying, I mean, it could be very easy to just kind of throw them in a generic pool and not have any individuality. But, meeting the Bad Batch and then also, like in that first episode, they have a lot of throwbacks to story arcs and characters that we cared about, throughout the whole show. I think these first two episodes it was good for bringing everything home. Like it was such a long time. 5 years since the last episode, or 6 years.
Yeah.
That it was a good way to kind of bring everything back, and again, having characters and story arcs that actually matter, and not just having these war themes of like not getting too like we talked about when we were reviewing some of the older episodes. Like it wasn't about the politics. It was about the characters. It was about getting to know what their motivations are, and the hope that keeps them going for this war that's been going on forever. You need some sort of motivation to not give up. So yeah, that was I think the biggest takeaway from these first two episodes for me.
It kind of ties back to that statement that Crosshair makes to Rex too, that he would have just let the reg. You would have just left him too, and then you wonder, well, but would you have left any of your crew? You know, would you have left anyone from the Bad Batch, or would you have stayed with them to the end? And that's where you start to really kind of dive into this deeper meaning of what it means to be a clone and what they're worth.
Angela, anything from?
I don't want to give anything away, so I'm almost afraid to comment.
That's okay. I guess in the next one you can share maybe a little bit more. I'm excited to see where this goes. I mean, I can't help but look at these two as how is the next 10 episodes going to, first of all, wrap up the Clone Wars arcs, and I think we're going to see more Ahsoka or the Siege of Mandalore and those sorts of things. But also, I thought I read somewhere that these are going to overlap with episode 3. So to see how that kind of plays out will also be very, very interesting and cool and helpful. So I guess we'll see where it goes, and I want to see how Echo plays into all of this. So, okay. Well, that's it from us. Listeners, what did you think of these episodes of the Clone Wars? You can, of course, be sure to email us or comment on our Facebook or Twitter page to let us know what you thought. You can email us any and all feedback at starwars@sqpn.com, and you can find StarQuest on Facebook at facebook.com/StarQuestMedia and on Twitter at SQPN. And now we'd like to take a moment and thank our patrons who make it possible for us to create the Secrets of Star Wars, including Betsy W., Jarrett B., Guy C., David B., and Erica P. Their generous donations at sqpn.com/give make it possible for us to continue the Secrets of Star Wars and all the various shows that we do here at StarQuest. And you can join them by visiting sqpn.com/give. Also, please be sure to subscribe to the show in your favorite podcast player, whether that's Apple Podcasts, Google Play, Stitcher, TuneIn, Spotify, iHeartRadio, or you can also subscribe to us on the SQPN YouTube channel. Just be sure to click the bell to get notifications. You can also find any previous episodes of The Secrets of Star Wars at sqpn.com/Star Wars. So we'll be back in 2 weeks when we'll be reviewing the 3rd and 4th episode of Season 7 of The Clone Wars. So be sure to keep watching on Disney Plus and keep up with the season before listening to us talk about it. So until then, Thomas Sanjurjo, thank you for joining me and sharing the secrets of Star Wars.
It's been a pleasure.
Mike Creevy, thanks for joining us this evening.
Thanks so much.
Angela Ciolana, thanks for not sharing any spoilers, but for all your wonderful insights.
Oh, I'm glad to be here as always.
And Andrew Hermes, thank you also for joining us this evening.
My pleasure. Thanks, Father.
And once again, I'm Father Andrew Kinstetter. Thank you for listening to The Secrets of Star Wars on StarQuest.